Good to see everybody. Happy Monday. This is our last full week of classes before we go on Thanksgiving break. Next week's only a 2-day week, so that's something to look forward to. Had a good weekend too. It's a good question, even when I start thinking about what I did. My wife her maternity leave is coming to an end, so she's preparing to go back to work. So we spent some time like building a little at-home office for her because she's going to be working remotely for part of the week. So that was kind of fun to do, and actually got some cleaning done that we've been meaning to do for like the last year. All right, welcome to Unit 3, Lesson 5. It's can't believe we're already 5 lessons into this immunology unit. But as usual, you're looking for the tasks to complete for U3L5. You can find that under assignments or on the Canvas homepage and the weekly calendar. Today's date is the 16th of November. So check that out. That's got all the tasks on it. I was on BBC reading about the news, and I stumbled across a cool video that I want to share with everybody that is very similar to what you guys made. I had you guys kind of take like those war effort posters and why did I lose all that? Nope, that's not what I want. I took those. We took those war effort posters and converted them into coronavirus messages. Turns out that in Germany, a company has done the same thing. Going to enhance the optimize sharing here. So check this out. It's kind of funny.
Ich glaube, das war im Winter 2020, als das ganze Land auf uns schaute. Ich war gerade 22 geworden, studierte Maschinenbau in Chemnitz, als die zweite Welle kam. 22. Diesem Alter will man doch feiern. Studieren, jemanden kennenlernen als sowas oder mit Freunden ein Trinken gehen. Doch das Schicksal hatte andere Pläne mit uns. Eine unsichtbare Gefahr bedrohte alles, woran wir glaubten. Und das Schicksal dieses Landes lag plötzlich in unseren Händen. Also fassten wir all unseren Mut zusammen und taten, was von uns erwartet wurde. Das einzig Richtige. Wir taten nichts. Absolut gar nichts. Waren faul wie die Waschbären. Tage und Nächte lang blieben wir auf unserem Arsch zu Hause und kämpften gegen die Ausbreitung des Coronavirus. Unsere Couch war die Front und unsere Geduld war unsere Waffe.
Yeah, just thought that was kind of funny. You should check out the rest if you want. There's a link to the article. But again, this kind of struck me as kind of similar as taking this like message of war and then converting it into fighting the virus. All right, I hate to say it, but I'm sure a lot of you have been viewing the news. Here is the current situation in the United States. And if you've been paying attention to any of the news, the coronavirus is out of control once again. We are definitely seeing another wave. It's kind of scary. But interesting to take a couple other perspectives. So this is the number of confirmed cases right up to November 16th. But if you look at confirmed deaths, we are definitely down from where we were at the start of the pandemic. But as you can see, it's a little disturbing. There is a bit of a rise occurring in the United States. But if you look at the case fatality rate, that number is down and is decreasing, which is good. So as respirators are becoming more available, people are a little bit more aware of the virus and its symptoms and are seeking medical attention when they need it. So that is an encouraging sign, even if, again, this is just not looking good for the holiday season coming up. And so, again, I know no one wants to go back into lockdowns. No one wants to think about this, but this is a pretty scary situation and something that you've got to take steps to protect yourselves and protect those around you. I wanted to start off class by looking at a couple things that I've been reading about circulating on social media sites. So this is on the tasks to complete list, step number 2. A couple statements that I'm going to present to you, and then I'm going to throw you into breakout rooms to just briefly discuss these. So my question is, have you heard any of these, and do you think they're true? The coronavirus nose swab test damages the brain by poking the blood-brain barrier. Contaminated testing kits are actually spreading the coronavirus to people getting tested. You can just breathe on the swab and still get an accurate test result. And you can pay to receive a fake COVID negative medical report. Okay, let me throw together breakout rooms here. Just chat about this and, say hi and check in as well for about 2 minutes, and then we'll come back together to share our thoughts. Rooms are open, go for it. All right, wait for the last few people to trickle in here. So, has anyone heard any of these or seen anything like this floating around on social media or anything like that? No, I guess not. I'm not that active in these sites, but do you think that any of these are true? One of them's true. Which one do you think is true?
Maybe the last one. I was thinking about like black market. You can definitely pay to have almost anything forged on the black market.
Indeed, and there's apparently quite the market that has erupted around this. So again, let me share my screen here really quickly. There is a link to a BBC article there that relates to this. That's where I pulled all these statements from, and you can go look at the same thing. I love this picture. I've never seen photos of people doing it to themselves. I guess that is an option in some places. But so the first one about the coronavirus test damaging your blood-brain barrier it's not going to happen. You've got bone that is protecting your brain entirely. So you would have to go in there with a pickaxe or something if you really wanted to damage the brain. This is just taking a little bit of a swab from your inside of your sinus. That's why they have to go so far back that it feels like they're touching your brain, but they're not. It's misleading that there are contaminated testing kits. I mean, like anything, yes, maybe there's a chance of contamination every now and then if things aren't handled properly. But most situations and times, they're being very careful about what kits have been used and what kits haven't been used, and so on. And so that's misleading information. It is possible that we're spreading this disease through oral, right, the droplets, but you can't get a high enough concentration of those infected droplets on a swab just by breathing on it or even sneezing on it, right? And so that's why they have to go into the back of your sinus and swab in there, because that's where the virus is infecting your cells the most and can generally produce the most accurate positive test. Whereas just breathing on it isn't going to be adequate enough. In terms of faking, though, as Margot was saying, yes, there is a market for this. What I thought was interesting is that according to BBC, there's a market for both positive and negative tests. So I guess some people are forging positive tests to like get out of work or to get benefits, and others are forging negative tests so that they can continue working or avoid things like that. Either way, do you think forging medical certificates and fake tests is helping the public health effort? It is not, especially for people, I think, who are forging negative tests. So, yeah, not a good thing, and hopefully something that gets shut down. Okay, next on the docket was checking in on the homework. Just going to share my screen again here for 5 seconds. It looks great. Multiple choice questions were good. Looks like you're feeling comfortable about the reading from, we were wrapping up Hall, right? So this was the reading on immune disorders. But the final question is when I want to again have you thrown into breakout rooms really quickly to share your thoughts about why are infectious disease rates dropping, right? Since 1950 up till 2000 and onwards, we've seen a drastic drop in infectious diseases and a sharp increase and I'm trying to look at the scales here. They're a little bit, yeah, I mean, it's a much more drastic increase compared to A than B of things like asthma, type 1 diabetes, and so on. And so just to throw the question in the chat here, you can also see it on the task to complete. Why have the rates of infectious disease gone down and rates of autoimmune disease gone up in most developed countries? And if you're not sure, just take a guess. Again, you'll chat about this in your new breakout room just for 2 minutes, then we'll come back together to share. Rooms are open, go for it. All right, a few more seconds to let everybody else come back in. So, what do we think? Sophia, what came up in your conversation?
For the first one, we were kind of talking about like vaccinations and how that's definitely contributed to helping it go down. Then for the second one, we talked about like lifestyle, but also just having more knowledge on certain diseases. So more people will get tested, and as we're figuring out more, there's obviously going to be more people.
Yeah, so increased rates are kind of maybe due to increased awareness, increased reporting, that kind of thing. Interesting perspective. Tammy, what came up in your conversation?
Yeah, we talked about like vaccines for like infectious diseases. We also kind of touched on like yeah, there's probably like more testing now than there was in the past. So like more people are aware if they have these kind of diseases, but also like kind of like the environment people are in, like air pollution and like diet and stuff can also affect it.
Yeah, especially things like asthma, right? So air pollution contributing to asthma, diet, yeah, irritable bowel syndrome stuff for sure. Okay, so again, let's focus on the first question then, the drop in infectious diseases. Both of you have mentioned vaccines. Great. Is that it? So vaccines are the one thing that have contributed to the drop in infectious disease?
In our group, we were talking about like public health efforts, like what they did in, I believe it was smallpox. I don't even know, but
Yeah.
they were able to like through years and years and years go to these small villages and places that they would not have any access to these vaccinations because of a plethora of reasons, but also because they have to be kept at certain temperatures. They have to do this and that, and have vaccinated people widespread. And there's a bunch of these public health efforts that have done that over the years.
Yeah, there are certain diseases that have been wiped out entirely, right? Polio, smallpox, another one. It's pretty incredible. But remember, viruses aren't the only things making us sick, right? Bacteria are a huge source of infectious disease. Vaccines don't work against bacteria. So what's going on there?
Antibiotics.
Yeah, so we've got medications that are antibiotics. What else, though? What might be different about the way people lived in 1950 and back that's a little bit different about think about what's in your bathrooms and what's in your kitchens and what you see when you go to a public restroom. What's
People are just
widely
generally cleaner, like more soap, more
yeah.
showering. I don't know.
Do you think we're more hygienic now than we were in the 1930s? For sure. Anthony mentioned antibiotics. We also have what's called antibacterial soap. Go look at the labels on a lot of your soap bottles in your bathrooms and stuff. You might actually see that it's labeled as antibacterial. So hygiene has also really improved. Food preparation too, right? We're much more aware about cooking our food, using sanitary practices and how it's served, packaging, right? As bad as it's been for the environment, plastic packaging and things like that has kept things preserved and safer. Gut microbes and things that used to transfer and make us sick through food are definitely a lot rarer, right? So all of those just contributed to it. Okay, so then you also said then the rise of asthma and things like that. What I heard so far was just increased reporting, increased awareness, and maybe like asthma, bad air pollution. Is that it? Why would things like arthritis be getting worse? Any ideas? Remember that autoimmune diseases are your immune system attacking your own body, right? That's what causes type 1 diabetes. That's what causes rheumatoid arthritis. And so what's been interesting is researchers have been trying to look at like what's going on with our immune systems, right? And they tie it back a little bit to this increased hygiene, that we're so hygienic now that is our immune system working as hard as it used to in the past? It definitely isn't. Definitely not when we're younger, especially, right? When you were younger, that's when you were meant to be exposed to just this plethora of things. Anyway, so this is just kind of the very initial basis of thinking. But what I want to do today is explore two theories that I find really fascinating. One is called the hygiene hypothesis. The other is called the old friends hypothesis, which are two things that have been put forward. Again, note that I'm saying hypotheses, not theories, to try to explain the rise in autoimmune diseases. What's really interesting to me is that this rise in autoimmune diseases is also being seen more in developed countries and nations than underdeveloped ones. And again, I don't like that classification that much, but basically what it's saying is most countries that have gone through the Industrial Revolution that have a lot of these hygienic practices and fast food and all this other stuff are seeing much higher rates of autoimmune diseases than a lot of African countries that aren't necessarily at that same level. And so what's going on there, right? How is economic, GDP influencing health in a negative way? And so I've got an ed puzzle that I'd like you to work through. It is 18 minutes long. I'm going to time for 25 minutes to get through it. Hopefully that's enough time. As usual, if ed puzzle doesn't work, I have a link to the original video on YouTube, and there's a Google form that has the exact same questions in it. So on the tasks to complete list, this is step number 4. Hygiene and old friends hypothesis. Just click on the link there to the ed puzzle. It'll take you to an assignment. That's where you can access the Google form and the YouTube video if you need to do that too. I also have the slides and video available back on the tasks to complete list. So I'm going to time for 25 minutes to work through the ed puzzle. Let me know if you have questions or if something isn't working, but otherwise we'll have a little discussion and vote about your thoughts on this when we come back together. 25 minutes, go for it. Go to that Google form and go ahead and vote for which hypothesis you would lend more credence to. I know they are actually quite similar to each other, and technically one has built off the other, but which one would you choose if you had to explain the rise in autoimmune diseases? Tammy, had you heard anything about the lower rates of autoimmune disease in places like Nigeria? Again, apparently arthritis is like not widely distributed. Yeah, I find that stuff really interesting in terms of what's going on. All right, let me check the Google form here. Great, seeing 13 replies. I think that accounts for everybody who's present today. Let's take a look. Wow, interesting. Not quite what I expected. Here are the results. Quite overwhelmingly towards the hygiene hypothesis. Very interesting. So not lending as much credence to the idea of parasitic worms being our old partners. And that is, some good thinking. So I did have a couple more slides to go over about the broader relevance of this, but I think I'm going to save those for the start of our next class period. I already put you through enough of that. So homework for Thursday is going to be reading from two different sources. So you're going to have just 2 single pages from your Gladwin book. Keep it short. That's just about helminths and how the parasitic worms infect and immunomodulate our bodies. And then there's actually a paper, a PDF paper that is, again, it's a short one though, all about it's called Cleaning Up the Hygiene Hypothesis and some sort of modern day corrections that are being made to this and clarifications. So we'll kind of chat more and discuss that the next time we meet, and we'll get into wrapping this up. I think we're either looking at bioterrorism or prion, some of the weird stuff that we'll talk about next too. So any questions or comments about any of that? All right, kids, I know it's late in the evening for most of you. So thank you very much. Have a good rest of your day. I'll hang around if anyone's got questions or wants to chat.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.